Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the impact it's having, the people it's reaching. My objective when I started really was to guide people on their journey, hold their space while they're going through shifts, and really to simplify spirituality. And it started out as a passion project, and now we release 2 episodes every week. And it's clearly reaching the people when they're ready. When I get messages every week that I found your podcast when I need it most, and messages I receive on a weekly basis really does lift my soul. So thank you. If you're a regular listener, if this is your first episode, welcome. Let me know if you have any feedback. Feedback's always a blessing. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to hold people's space while they're going through a shift. And I feel like so many of us are going through a shift. Help people to understand the programming, what the soul really signed up for in this lifetime. Releasing all that programming to becoming your core authentic self. And there's layers, there's hard work. You go deep, but I love doing it. And, if my voice resonates, if you feel like we can help, reach out. Maybe you're ready for mentoring. Maybe you're ready for an Akashic record reading. I'm also starting a membership. Maybe you're ready for that. My voice resonates, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Now, this podcast wouldn't be where it is today without my co-host, introducing the amazing, the stunning, the hero extraordinaire, and now published author, Stacey Brown. Stacey, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. And I've got to keep doing that, right?
Yes. Hi, friends. It's good to be back. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that we have to use our voices on this podcast to make an impact. And I'm truly grateful for our listening audience. So thank you for being here with us again on another episode. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from all around the world. I have a special right now that's just $44 for a 30-minute session with me. If you're interested in finding out more, go to my website, stacey-brown.com. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And this is a space that really brings me a lot of joy because we get to reach people from all around the world in all different walks of life and help you on your journey to healing. If you feel like we can help you in any way, just reach out. I also have a book out. It's called Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender. It's available on Amazon and Audible. It's a powerful story of healing and one that was a daunting task to share, but something I'm hoping will leave a lasting impact. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do. Really, really looking forward to this episode today, Nims. It's near and dear to my heart.
Thanks, Stace. And I would say we, especially the joint episodes with Stace, don't really decide a topic in advance. It's really how do we feel energetically. And the last couple of episodes have been really intense, especially with some major shifts that Stacey's going through. And today's topic came from a conversation we had yesterday. It's just energetically, it continues to be a really intense time. 5 planets in retrograde plus Chiron. Also in retrograde, and Chiron's not really a planet, but it's the wounded healer. So if you're on a spiritual journey, you're going to be feeling these retrogrades. And a lot of people are going through a shift. A lot of people are feeling like they are going through a shift, and a lot of people are feeling anxious. It really is an interesting time. So we thought today we'd talk about anxiety versus intuition and how to tell the difference. This is an anxious time. The human in us can feel something going on, can feel a real shift. So can the spiritual side, but the spiritual side is more open to it, right? More trusting. The human wants to control, wants to understand what's coming next. And for the human, for the physical body, it really is a time of anxiety. We're anxious. How does anxious look? Being anxious, how does that feel in your body? Versus how does intuition feel? We'll dive deeper into it, but at a high level, anxiety feels really heavy. There's like a dread. It's it's like fear. It's really hard to describe, but it's really heavy in your body. It's almost like it's like draining. You don't feel like you can do anything. It's like an overriding emotion. And when you're anxious, it's really hard to see the wood for the trees. It's really hard to see a way out, to understand whatever's happening in your world is happening for a reason. And intuition is more light. And interesting enough, sometimes intuitive hits can lead to anxiety because if you get intuitive hits, sometimes your physical, your ego starts to take over, and then the disconnect between the human and the spirit increases your anxiety. Intuition typically feels light. It doesn't have a heavy emotional energy to it, and it normally comes in before the ego kicks in. But like I said, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling heavy, if you're feeling that in your body, it sometimes is difficult to hear your intuition. But I would ask you, if you are feeling anxious, this is a time to maybe change your question and to ask whatever you're feeling anxious about, how is it serving you? If you were to ask your intuition, how is that, whatever you're feeling anxious about, whatever you're feeling in this moment, how is that serving you? And honestly, right now, like I said earlier, there's such an intense energy. This is a time where we're being pushed to continue to close karmic cycles, but it's much deeper than that. It's if you've been holding on to anything, it's like if you've done so much healing, you've released so many karmic cycles, but there's some deep, dark pain that you're holding on to that you really, maybe you don't even know it's there. This is a time the universe is going to shine a light on it. It's going to come up and, Mercury retrograde, everybody worries about. For me, retrogrades are not time to worry. It's a time to be more introspective, be more time with yourself, time to just hear what's happening in your world, time to trust your intuition. So, Stacey, when I ask you about feeling anxious, and I know this is a topic that, as you say, is near and dear to your heart, how does it feel to you, the difference between anxiety and intuition?
So it's interesting because it's taken me some time to really think about this and marinate on it because I have dealt with anxiety for most of my life. I mean, even as a young girl, I dealt with significant anxiety, and it's been something that I have wrestled with on and off throughout my life. And I think that when it comes to anxiety, there is like an antsiness to it, like a feeling of unrest and being unsettled, and heightened awareness, emotion can also be a part of that. I know for me, when it's been really bad, it disrupts my sleep. I mean, I've had times where I'm waking up in a cold sweat because the anxiety is so significant. And I think intuition, depending on what we're having an intuitive hit about, feels more grounded and more secure and more peaceful. And I think sometimes when we have an intuitive hit, it can be upsetting, right? Because it might go against what we thought we were going to do or what we thought we were supposed to do. And so I think that's where sometimes anxiety and intuition can kind of bleed into each other, where we have a hard time deciphering what's what. And I know that I've been there, and I've been there recently. I felt really convicted about my decision to move to the UK, NIMS. I felt like it was the right thing and I was going to do it. And yet I was having these anxious moments that were coming more frequently in waves as I was getting closer to moving. And I had to really sit with it and figure out, Was I feeling anxious because this wasn't the right thing? Or was I feeling anxious because it was a big change? And that's where I was wrestling with the intuitive part because I couldn't tell exactly where it was coming from. And it took me getting quiet with myself to really decipher the difference. And we're going to talk about that as we move forward about how to tell the difference. But I'm telling you, with time, I really believe things are revealed when we're open to those signs and those messages. And I think that's the key is when we are anxious, it's very hard to be open. And that anxiety can override any of the intuitive feelings that we might have. I feel like anxiety is loud and intense at times, and intuition is more quiet, more like a whisper. And so sometimes it can be harder to hear. And this has been one of those times for me that I really experienced that kind of turmoil around what was anxiety and what was actually me being intuitive and recognizing that this wasn't right for me. And though anxiety and intuition look very different, when we're in the thick of it, it can be hard to decipher. And I think that's something that's really important for our audience to understand because I have had so many clients and friends right now who I have been talking to who have been talking about the level of anxiety that they're feeling right now. And when we're in that space, it can be really hard to make the right decisions. And so we felt like this was a very important topic to cover today.
And it is actually make a really important point in terms of whatever's happening, including anxiety, is some way serving you. I mean, you just said you were having a lot of anxiety about moving. So whatever you're feeling, it is honor that feeling. I mean, we've talked already about the difference between two. Anxiety is loud, fast, urgent. It creates a pressure, sometimes to act immediately, or sometimes just to you kind of get lost in it. Things like what if, spiraling. It's just, and it is driven by fear, overwhelming past trauma. And this is sitting with your anxiety and understanding where it's coming from. It is confusing, but it pulls you out your center, and but it's still a message. So sitting with it and understanding it, it's an intuition is quiet, steady, calm, as Stacey was just saying. There's no urgency to it. It's just simple as is. It's very much in the present moment. And it's driven by inner clarity, alignment, and truth. And this is the thing. It's like I feel like we talk about this every single week, and that is, self-care and doing things like grounding and meditation and I get it. It's harder to do when you're anxious, right? I mean, it's like if you try and meditate, I get a lot of feedback from clients and even myself. It's like when you're anxious, it's hard to meditate. There's so much happening in your mind, and it's like trying to be quiet, but persist. Especially time in nature, time with you, and changing a question. How is this serving me? Because it is serving you. And if you ask the question, how is it serving you? Then normally the answer you get, ironically, comes first from your intuition. It's normally quieter, and then your anxiety, your ego kicks in. So listen to the first thing that comes through. But also know, like Stacey was saying, sometimes anxiety is also a warning sign. Anxiety shows up really so much more in your physical. And, as we were talking about, Stacey asked me the question before we begin, why is anxiety louder during energetic shifts? We feel the intensity of the energy, and it's also, for many of us, a natural impulse. So if the planet is going through a shift, you're going to feel that too. If people around you are anxious, you're going to feel that too. And like I said, with these retrogrades, there's more happening inside you. So it's like a collective energy. Some of it comes from you and some of it comes from the collective. And this is why I always advise clients, it's like, if you're feeling anxious, ask yourself in this moment, how much of this anxiety is mine? And how much of it is coming from the external, coming from those around me, coming from those from the planet? And a lot of the time, the anxiety people are feeling is not all there. Some of it is, of course. But the past that's not yours, you can request and say, I send anything that's not mine back to source. And that might sound really simple, but it's the intention you put behind it. And always, if you release anything back to source, make sure you replace it with something, because you've just created a gap inside you. If you don't replace it with something, then it could be filled with a different sort of anxiety. So just make sure you intentionally fill that space with love, with energetic energy, with angelic energy, whatever you feel. But your physical body is such a big clue. Again, I say this all the time. Why when we have a question, do we always look outside for the answers? If you're feeling anxious, some of it is probably a muscle memory, something from the past. But it is a message to you. And this is why finding the balance between intuition and understanding the lessons from anxiety is important. And how self-care takes you back to you. How have you been handling your anxiety, Stace? What advice can you give to anyone listening?
So I know no other way to be than myself on this podcast. And sometimes the level of vulnerability is extremely uncomfortable, but I have been wrestling. I have been really struggling with, I'm really good at balancing it during the day and finding the self-care to be very, very helpful. But I find that my anxiety is playing out at night and it's disrupting my sleep. And I fall asleep great. And then I start tossing and turning in the middle of the night and continue until the wee hours in the morning. So I would say I'm doing better than I have been, because when I originally made this decision, I was feeling anxious 24/7. And now I feel like I'm coming to this place of kind of accepting the anxiety and saying, okay, you're here to teach me something. What is it? And trying to just manage it as best I can. And what I have found, Nims, for me, has been being really intentional about my time and what I do with it. So making sure that I am surrounded by support right now is really important. I've been leaning into my friends and, the family that I have, and really turning to them for that comfort that I need right now. Right. And those relationships are helping me to navigate the anxiety. But then I also think that what I do with my time on my own is really important as well. And so I have tried to take the time that I have with myself and do things that lift my spirits. I really, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while now, then you know I am super passionate about journaling. I just feel like it's a great way to connect with yourself. I also think when you feel like you don't have anybody to turn to, it's a great way to feel like you're turning to somebody, but to have that independent time where you're being introspective with your own thoughts. And that's been a great space for me to process things as well. I think approaching yourself with tenderness when you're going through an anxious period is really important. Life moves fast, right? And there are so many demands on us that I think it can magnify the anxiety if we don't slow down. And so, one of the things that I have been doing is kind of slowing down in my day to day and how I'm approaching it. For those who have dealt with anxiety, you know it's exhausting, right? I mean, it can drain the energy out of you completely in a very short amount of time. And you can wake up feeling like you haven't slept at all and feel like you're dragging. And that's where I think the tenderness for ourselves comes in, that we have to be compassionate with ourselves. And during these times of heightened awareness where we're feeling anxious, we need more rest. We need more self-care. We need more time with ourselves to be introspective, to reflect on what is happening in our world and how it's impacting us and what we want to do with it. And from that space, as we spend more time with ourselves, I believe we can quiet the anxiety and listen more to our intuition. And I think that it's about quieting out the noise. And anxiety can be very loud, my friends, so that it can be challenging to bring yourself to a space where you're still enough to be able to welcome in your intuition. But it's what I've been working on diligently. I mean, every day, Nims, every day I'm working on this and just being as intentional as I can and being extra compassionate with myself. I feel like no one is going to look out for me the way that I can. No one is going to come to my rescue. This is something I have to figure out, and I'm determined to do it. And so I'm willing to take the steps that I need to in order to manage it. I want to add something to this, though, friends, that feels really important. And this is just on my heart to say. I do believe there are times where the anxiety is overwhelming and where we can't get control of it on our own. And so I want to encourage our listeners, if you're in that space, there is nothing wrong with asking for help. There is nothing wrong with getting professional help of whatever kind you need, whether that's therapy, a mentor, whether that's medication to help you manage it. There are so many different avenues for how we can handle our anxiety. But I want our listeners to know sometimes it takes more than just being still. Sometimes it takes more than just saying, I'm going to learn how to manage this. Sometimes we need somebody to come in and show us how to do things differently. And there's nothing wrong with that, my friends. If you're in that space, reach out for support. It's here, okay? You have support. It's just a matter of being brave enough to reach out and say, I can't do this on my own. And it's a place that I've been in before. You know, I know it well. So if you're feeling that way, I just want you to know you're not alone.
So many important things you said there, Stace. And if I look at the last few episodes we've recorded, we talked a lot about community and support system. So I do feel like this is the time to lean on whatever support system you have. And if you don't feel like you've got a support system, then manifest one. Look for groups. Look for areas that are safe. And, online, sure, we have the monthly full moon webinar. I have just introduced Spiritual Journey membership, but also look for people in person. I feel like we're entering into a phase where we've closed so many cycles, so be open to new souls coming into your world that hold your space. Maybe you're ready for mentorship. Reach out. We hold your space through 12 weeks and really help you go through a shift. But it is a time, I guess, if we summarize everything we said, time to trust you. And also it's a powerful thing to ask for help. In the old days, it's probably seen as a weakness. But Stacey said quite a few important things to just check in with yourself when you're feeling anxiety, and just trusting yourself, sitting still, closing your eyes. And I always recommend 10 minutes of silence, but just start with 90 seconds. Close your eyes and breathe slowly for 90 seconds, because breath is so important. Calming yourself down, those deep breaths. And in that calmness, you'll start to, and you can ask, does it, is this anxiety? Is it intuition? In that calmness, you'll recognize the difference between anxiety and intuition. The other thing is trust you. Put your hand on your heart and ask, does this feel like fear or truth? Even as simple asking your question to your guides. One of the things my dad always used to recommend is ask, if you're feeling anxious about something or a question or something, sleep on it and ask first thing in the morning, before you pick up your phone, before you pick up anything. Because I feel before the day kicks in, your connection to your guides is so much stronger. So in that moment of clarity, in that moment of quiet, even before maybe the anxiety kicks in, because I know sometimes in the morning anxiety can be so intense. Just there's so many things you can do. Stacey talked about journaling, just brain dumping, just everything, just free writing, whatever's in your heart. Journaling is a spiritual activity. We hold things inside, we keep pushing it down, and it has to go out somewhere. So when you journal, it's like going through your arms, and once you're writing, it's a release. And depending where you are, I'm in the UK, it's quite cold, but even if it's cold, even if it's snowy, we had a client send some beautiful pictures of the snow. Going for a walk. Because the thing is that our ego, our anxiety, is normally strongest at home. Because we've been through so much at home, our ego is stronger. When we're outside, our connection to source is different, which is why when we record when we do an Akashic reading with somebody, we'll always recommend listen to the recording outside. Because sometimes your intuition gets so much louder. Just being in that moment, being in fresh air, being outside the home. And trust your intuition, ask. The thing is, a lot of the time we ask our guides a question, and the answer may come in so many different forms, but we get frustrated because it doesn't come in the form that we wanted it to. Let's say we ask a question and intuitively we get, an answer, but it's like, this is where ego kicks in and you start to believe yourself. What if you asked the question and just trusted your intuition? What if you asked a question and trusted that the answer will come through in whatever form it's meant to? And like I said, for me, the biggest thing is checking with yourself. If you're feeling anxious, is this mine? And how much of it is not mine? Tune into your shoulders, your chest, your heart, your stomach, your breath. Check in with you. Where do you feel anxious? And maybe have a conversation with it. Your answers are in you. Yes, it's great if you have a community. Lean on them. Stacey's been leaning. She said her community's been super helpful, and reaching out, having people around you that allow you to be you, allow you to, you don't have to lower your vibration to be around. You don't have to mold yourself into somebody else that you're not to be around them. Those are the people you need to look for. So who in your world is like that? Who in your world allows you to be you? Those are the people you need to lean on. And the other thing is, sometimes we get anxious because we feel like we're repeating a program. It feels like we're doing something again. I don't really believe in repeat programs. I believe that when things come up again, it's a different level of healing. Like I said, this is such a trying time. You have to remind yourself that your soul chose you to be here. Your soul And whatever you're going through, your soul chose this path. And I get I trigger people when I say that sometimes, right? Because if you're going through something really hard, why would your soul pick this, right? And the thing we've got to remember is we're also releasing a lot of ancestral karmic energy. So sometimes you meet a soul in this life. Maybe you have a relationship, maybe you fall in love, maybe you feel that connection, and then maybe eventually feel pain. Maybe that comes from a past life. Maybe there was a past life connection there and you had to release the karma. Maybe ancestrally, your masculine and your feminine line caused some pain and caused, then there's some release that you need to do in this lifetime. Because I feel like so many of us that are on the spiritual path are choosing to lead their family line. And the more that you can trust yourself, the more you can trust your intuition, the more, because the other thing that's happening right now, and the reason we feel anxious, is the old version of ourselves are disappearing. So actually, in many ways, the anxiety we're feeling can also be grief. So understanding your anxiety, going deeper on how is it serving you, and doing some of the simple things that we've talked about, like journaling, like just breathing. The 4-4-4 technique is so powerful. I love it. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. Breath is prana. It's the gift of life. It provides so much power. And again, journaling. I mean, Stacey loves journaling. She talks about it, but just doing a brain dump, everything you're feeling. No one needs to read it. It's for you. But if you listen to this, then you're a powerful being and you are going through a shift. And the other thing to always remember is this too shall pass. I remind myself of that. If things are going really well, this is a phase and it may pass. So this too shall pass. If things are going rough, then it's a phase. This too shall pass. So that phrase has helped me a lot through the different times, knowing that whatever I'm going through is a phase. And trusting that the universe will never give me anything you can't handle. I mean, Stacey, I feel your energy shifting in terms of everything you're going through. And it's like each time we record, there's a different energy and a different vibration to you in terms of, how you're coping with your shift, right? You were going to move and your anxiety almost led you to a different decision. How are you feeling right now about everything and anxiety? And even in this episode, as we talk about it, how much is it helping you?
I think it's significant to talk about it and not hide it. I think it's such a beautiful thing when we can talk about some things that might be holding us back or be uncomfortable, and we can be open about what it's truly like to go through this experience, whether it's anxiety or something else. I believe this is how we help one another, is by being open and authentic about our journey. And yes, I would say things are evolving for me slowly. It's going to take time, right? I have a lot to figure out and heal. I have a lot to grieve and mourn. And I need to go through all of those emotions and all of those phases in order to come out the other side. And I need to let myself feel it. And I'm not telling you to sit in your anxiety, my friends, because I don't think that's healthy. But I do think that when emotions and feelings come up, we need to sit with them and figure out where they're coming from and what they mean. And that can be very uncomfortable, but 100% worth it to understand yourself a little bit more. And I would say that's the process that I'm going through right now, Nims, is learning more about me and really dialing in on understanding how my anxiety impacts me, what the signs are of it, and learning how to manage it better, right? Like I said, it's been something that I've been dealing with since I was a little girl. And it's something that for the first time ever in my life, I feel very determined to understand it and to rise above it. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to have times where I deal with it still. It's just this desire to be the best version of me. And I can't do that if I'm existing in a space of anxiety all the time. I can't put my best foot forward when I'm doing that. And so I think that alone is reason enough to work through it, understand it, and give it a voice, right? And acknowledge it. I think that's the other thing. I think a lot of people suppress what they're feeling, especially when it comes to anxiety, because there's a lot of shame and guilt around it. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not stronger? Why am I not dealing with this better? And so I do think that a lot of us who deal with anxiety kind of hide. And I don't believe that that's going to help us. I believe what's going to help us is being open about it and having conversations like these where we strategize how we're going to manage it differently.
So powerful you said there, Stacey, in terms of really understanding it. And, this is the first time maybe you're really trying to understand it and process it. And like I said, I do feel like there's a really deep energy at the moment of embracing who we are, embracing this version of ourselves, allow a new version of us to be born. A lot of spiritual leaders talk about ascension, fifth dimension, third dimension, and the shift we're going to. I talk a lot about shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, and I do feel this is a collective shift. And I do feel sitting with your pain, sitting with your anxiety, and everything we've talked about, all the techniques of really understanding it. I do feel this is the time, and not because so often we train to push down our emotion. We train to, if we're feeling something, push it down and deal with it later. I don't think the universe is going to let us do that anymore. I feel like we've done that for so long and that's our programming. But if we're gonna do something that's never been done before, if we are really going through such a massive shift, then we have to deal with what we're going through. We have to deal with our darkness. And I had a conversation with a client this week about darkness, and it's not all about light. We all have light and darkness in us, and the darkness is there to serve us in some kind of way. When we try and push our darkness away, that's when we give it power. So Stacey said it, so well in terms of this is the time to sit with it. And I know, a lot of the conversations, and including myself, a lot of us are going through some kind of identity crisis. So, what are we here to do on the planet? And I was trying to keep it simple for me. I just, my deal with my guys, I'm just going to keep showing up. And sure, sometimes doubts kick in, just like with anybody else. But I'm going to keep showing up for me. And what does that mean? Everything we've talked about, that time in silence, that time of just deep breathing, the time in nature. It is my go-to now. It has to be, journaling, meditation, praying, listening, talking to my guides. And sometimes I feel and I get that we make things sound really simple. But I don't think spirituality is complicated. I never said it was easy, but it doesn't have to be complicated. So what if taking care of you, building a strong community, self-care, listening to your messages? I mean, I feel like I'll probably record a separate episode on this, but so many people are turning to ChatGPT for the answers instead of looking internally. AI is a big part of our future. I get it. And I'm sure I'll record a separate episode on it, but it's not going to replace your consciousness, your power, your intuition. It can complement it, but it can't replace it. So Stacey, as we get into close out this episode, I'm going to ask you for any final bits of advice, any general prompts you want to share.
So I just want to encourage our anxious listeners to pick up your journal. Okay. I know that when you're anxious, it can feel like you're walking in concrete and it can feel very daunting to do anything, but pick up your journal and just give yourself a free space to write about what's going on. And I want you to work on uncovering, is what I'm dealing with right now anxiety, or is my intuition trying to tell me something here that I'm not listening to? And really give yourself a space to process it and see exactly what's going on. It's so hard when we're in the throes of the anxious feelings to decipher the difference between our mind playing tricks on us and the fear and all of that versus reality. But giving yourself a space to write about it and see what comes up can be a powerful practice. Okay, so I just want to encourage you to take the time to do some writing and reflection and see what comes up. And then I also want you to consider what options you have to help you with your anxiety. If it's debilitating you that much, what are you doing to take action to get control of this feeling of being out of control? And I really want you to think about that. What steps are you taking to rectify the way that you're thinking about things if you're in that anxious space? And give yourself some time to think about it. And you know what? If you're feeling brave, reach out to us. Let us know what's going on with you right now. Are you feeling anxious? I know a lot of our clients are. That's why we felt inspired to do this episode. But reach out to us. Let us know, how are you handling it? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to manage it? We would love to hear from you. We love hearing from our listening audience. So Nims, that's a little bit of my advice. I think the key is writing and reflecting and allowing yourself a space to turn inward and really explore what's going on underlying that anxiety.
Really good advice, Stace. Couldn't agree more. It's just being gentle and being kind to yourself. Anxiety lives in the noise, intuition lives in the quiet. And the reality is you don't need to have all the answers today. The human psyche is like pushing us to fix everything at once. You don't have to get all the answers. You don't need clarity on everything in this moment. All you need to do is take one breath, one moment, one choice at a time. It's exactly what I've been telling Stace for the last few weeks. 1 day, 1 hour, 1 moment at a time. And it's like when you slow down, your intuition will rise. When you calm your body, your truth becomes clearer. When you trust your intuition, that inner whisper, your intuition increases. It's a muscle. And always remember, you needed, you wanted. And, if we can help, reach out. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're becoming. Whatever's for you will always find you. Whatever's not for you will miss you. We love this space. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a DM if this episode touched a nerve. If you like the episode, please do like, comment, share. It really does help the podcast get to more people. And if we can help in any way, then, maybe you're looking for guidance. Maybe you're ready for mentorship. Maybe you're ready for a reading. Maybe you're ready for the membership program. Whatever feels right, just reach out. And maybe you just want to send us a DM and allow us to send you love and light. Whatever it is, we're here. We're sending you so much love and light. This is such an expansive time. Be gentle with yourself. Be kind. You're never here to walk this journey alone. We've recorded a few episodes about that recently. This phase is meant to be done collaboratively. So look for that support. Look for that help. Sending so much love and light out. Stacey, I'm going to hand over to you to close this out.
Another powerful episode, and I'm so grateful that we have a platform where we get to discuss things that might otherwise be swept under the rug. This is a powerful topic and something that's impacting so many, and it just feels like the right space for us to be able to do it and know that you don't have to do it alone. Okay, we're here to support you in any way we can, like Nimesh said. Thank you again for another beautiful episode. Thanks, Nims.
Thanks, Stace. Sending love and light to everybody. We'll be back soon. Bye for now.